Yeah, man. Let's kill that bass head. Alright, let's do this. I'm on the air, we got this pockets flow. It's me and Tony on the mics, we gotta let you know of current events, little gaming, sprinkle in some entertainment. We stay humble, but our moms still think we're famous. Turn up the bass and baby, maybe let that magic flow. Our spoken word is all the things you really wanna know. Having a good time on the show, T-Bows and Matty G. Tune in and hit subscribe and join us on the FAP.
Welcome everyone to the Freaking Awesome Podcast. I'm your host Anthony Bowes, and I'm choking on that opening statement for the first time ever. I want to thank first of all everybody who have been kind of hanging around. I know we normally shoot at 5, and unfortunately I had a passing in the family, so we are still out there, and we're so lucky that our guest today has been so gracious enough to push his appointment, and for the rest of the evening, I guess, as we're coming in super late. But before we start, I'd like to thank our sponsors. CR Sabers and Blue Bull's Outer Rim Saber Parts. If you're looking for a lightsaber, if you're looking for something for cosplay, and or just reliving that childhood of Star Wars love, make sure you check out CR Sabers and Blue Bull Saber Parts Stop. We'll make sure that we put their link up underneath if you want to check them out while the show is going on. But definitely stay tuned because we have a wonderful guest today. He is an artist and a designer. Not only that, but he is the artist and designer for a little man named Snoop Dogg, and his albums. Today, Justin Roach. Justin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Anthony. I appreciate you having me on, especially under the circumstances and everything like that. So, but yeah, I'm doing great, man.
Yeah,
I'm a night owl, so this pushing it back is no big deal at all. I stay up till like 2 or 3 in the morning all the time. So this is so early for me.
Days. Oh my God, yeah. I used to have quite the nightlife until I had kids, and that changed drastically. Now I'm exhausted all the time, so it doesn't really matter what time of day it is. What I it's always have this kind of joke with friends, and I say, like, if you're ever planning on having kids, believe it or not, is a young man's game. If you're gonna do it when you're young. Do it when you're like staying up late. Do it when you've got like that need to party and stuff, because they're gonna drain the life out of you. You're gonna be exhausted anyway. So, do it when you're young, so that when you're older, they're already getting older, and you're feeling fantastic, and they're doing their own thing. So,
and at least you have that young energy to keep up with them at that age, right? When you're younger.
100%. That's right. And then, that way, it's also not a complete, shame as a grown man if you're sitting down playing Lego. It works. You don't have the rest of the family going, "Oh my God, what's he doing?" So,
how many kids do you have?
I have 2. I have a 13-year-old and a 7-year-old. And,
okay.
And
boys?
Nope, both girls. And
wow.
They are absolutely fantastic. I'm super proud of them. They're quite artistic themselves, actually, in their own way. So, I'm one of the things I'm actually have to say, I'm super excited to have you on the show, because I was a designer for 12 years. And,
really?
as I used to do a lot of logos and graphics and stuff for companies. And I got to tell you, like, people really don't understand what goes into that process. And it's really like it's an overlooked a career choice for people, right? Because a lot of the long time they look at you, you're like, oh, you just like to doodle on paper. Right? So yeah. I mean, have you ever seen there's a website? It's a really old one out there, but it's called I Can Draw Better Than Your Kids.
Yes, I have saw that. That's amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely amazing. And there's so many people out there that, like, there's a graphic designer out there that he's world renowned for people like saying, "Oh, can you do this?" And he's like one of those you get what you pay for kind of people.
Oh yeah.
So he'd be like, "Oh yeah, I want to Photoshop and my ex-boyfriend out," but then he'll put someone else in the place and be like, "Whoa, you got to be more specific."
But that's so true though, because like you're right. Only we kind of doing it, we know the quirks of like what goes into that, and vague request and underpaying. I have like $30 I could give you. Can you make me a logo? It's like, hold on, I'll draw it real quick.
That's right. Yeah. You just take a circle and put a line through it, and then get past it. Like, there's your $30.
Just write $30 on a paper and give it to them. Did you do
true.
your logo for the podcast or no?
Yes, yeah, I did.
Oh, that's
So,
cool. I noticed that. Yeah, when I was checking out the stuff, I noticed the logo. It looks good, man.
thank you very much. Some old habits are hard to die. You want
I
to turn around and
know.
say, "Oh, you let someone else do it," and I'm just like, I'm the type of guy that I really have problems getting people to do something I know I can do myself, right? Which is a nightmare when I'm in the midst of home renovations right now, and
Oh
and I'm
no.
just like, there's certain things that maybe you should just get a professional to do, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of putting things together. And luckily, I have a friend who's extremely good with this, and he's been helping out a lot lately. But the first start of it was a complete nightmare, and you truly realize like this is not your skill set. You
Right.
know enough to be dangerous. You know enough to get maybe something done. Doesn't mean it's going to look good, but it might look better than it did.
But your
So
pride's not going to stop. Your pride's going to make you think that you can do it, and I can do it cheaper. I can save X amount of money, and
yeah,
then you start, like you said, you start getting into stuff, and it's like, oh, I
yeah.
need a professional.
Right. Like I often like I'm the man who does not like maps, right? Like, thank
Same.
God for GPS because the
Yeah.
paper map was a nightmare. My dad always tried to teach me to like use a paper map. And I look at like I feel like I'm the type of guy that if you ditched me in the trunk of a car and they drove me around and then ditched me somewhere, I'd get up and be like, that way's north. I could be horribly wrong. I might end up being in Mexico or something and like walk it further down. But
That'd be
I don't know.
me.
Yeah. There's something about it says, no, you can do this. You've got this, pal.
Yeah.
So
It,
that's male pride.
credit you for the ambition though, because some people are just like, I probably lean more towards the I'll just call somebody. I'll just call somebody. So I'm the other end of the spectrum. I'm like, I don't want to do anything on my own. Like
Yeah.
it's like there's something tiny. I'm like, somebody will come and do that for me. And I'd rather pay than screw it up. So I don't have
You
enough
know
faith
what?
in myself in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and sometimes that really does pay off, right? I mean, let me tell you, plumbing and electrical are things you probably shouldn't do yourself. Um,
Absolutely.
I had a little experience in the past so that it was one of those things that I could say, I can probably do this right up until someone goes to test it. And if water starts shooting everywhere, I'm like, well, that's someone else's problem now.
Yeah.
But
I tried my best.
that's right. Yeah, exactly. It looks sealed to me. I don't know how much glue you need, but
Right.
so glue sticks don't work for everything, everybody. So just FYI. But
So did you get out, and I'm sorry, I feel like I'm like turning the table and I'm interviewing you now.
no,
Do you still dabble in like design and stuff like that or art, or have you kind of just totally threw it in the background?
for the most part, it's kind of in the background. I do have some
Yeah.
friends. I get some other podcasts that say, "Hey, you want to?" And like I really like helping out my fellow podcasters in the podcast community. So like I try to take a stab and say, "Oh yeah, I'll throw something together for you and see if you like it. If you like it, run with it. If you don't, then you're on to the next person." But
Yeah.
like I can't go back and forth. I just don't have a lot of time in my day producing
Yeah.
the show and working and being a family man. So, but I do enjoy it. Like I still have a habit of driving down the street, looking at logos on cars and on stores, thinking, man, that is a horrible design. Or
Yeah.
what were you thinking with typology? And it looks like it reads like, you know, pen is and it looks like penis or something because it's like really,
Yeah.
really bad font that people used, so stuff like that. I think that's once you're in the design world, that never leaves you. Like you're always on the lookout for stuff
Yes.
like that. But for the most part, I have stopped. Now, my eldest daughter has really gotten into drawing and kind of cartooning and stuff. And I looked at that when I was young. Like I thought cartooning would be the way to go. I loved cartoons, I loved comics, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my time, guidance counselors were like the worst people in the world, and they said that's impossible. Like it's a pipe
Yes.
dream. Don't
Got
go
that
with it.
too.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So the encouragement isn't necessarily there for the arts, and not everybody can be a Van Gogh, and not everybody wants to slice off an ear or have some mental issues. So,
Right.
although let me tell you, I've had enough clients where mental issues do ensue.
Oh my God. I
You
know.
know,
I know, man. It's
I think
like
we were
I
first
I
talking about like people who come in with their kids' designs and say, "Yeah, can you turn this into something?" You're like, "Oh, for God's sakes!"
oh, I know. I quit once a week. I get to that, not outwardly, but inwardly. I'm like, I'm so done with this shit. I just can't do it anymore. I've had enough. And then inevitably it's like, just keep pushing on. So
Yeah,
I'm telling you, man, I go with that struggle all the time, that inner struggle of like, why am I doing this? Like I'm waiting to be rich, and it's not happening. It's taking a long time. But
Yeah,
I think
people
the
don't tell you
misconception.
that, right? You think that, hey,
No.
come on. I mean, have you seen the Voice of Fire? It's like 1.3 million and it's a speed stripe. That's all it is. It's two
Oh,
red lines with a
yes.
blue line down the middle, and that was like 1.3 million dollars. I'm like, are you fucking me? Like that was done. That was a red canvas with a blue roller stripe.
Yeah.
It, so yeah,
What am I doing wrong, right?
right, exactly. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Am I putting too much effort in? Is that
Yeah.
where art is failing for me?
Meanwhile, I'll be up for 3 hours straight working on a rivet or like a screw on something so giant that you'll never notice it. And I'm just trying to get the shine right. And I'm like, for hours, I'm like needling over the smallest details. And then,
Yes,
like you said, someone just take a roller across the canvas and it's $1.2 million. It's
right,
like, what am I doing wrong? But
right. You're like, this looks like a rivet. You see it, you know that's a rivet. Everybody, like, if
yeah,
that was any more real, you would be holding your wall or a piece of steel up with this. And
right,
they're like,
right.
eh. So
I
like,
didn't even notice it.
right, exactly. It's like, oh, is that what those are? I thought those were like bubbles. You're like,
Oh,
son of a bitch.
I know. It's like, oh, yeah. I'm just hoping there's this new, and I'm sure Stacy, has talked to you too about like the NFT world. It's like kind of really opening up a lot of. I feel like finally, like artists and graphic designers and stuff like that might finally be able to get a little bit of piece of that pie finally, because I
I
feel like
sure hope so. Yeah.
I hope, yeah, it's been like like that term starving artist is so legit and so real, like, and I think that's sometimes the misconception is, like I work with Snoop and I work with some of these bigger people, and they think because Snoop's rich, you must be rich, right? And it's like,
Right.
and not, Snoop. To be fair, Snoop pays well, in that field, but
Yeah.
there's, that there's a cap that like
Yeah.
you
Exactly.
can't really get
Right.
super rich off of
People aren't
doing
spending a
graphic
million
design.
dollars on an album cover.
No, no, I wish they were, but no.
Right.
Unless the NFT stuff pops up, then hey, you never know. But
That's right,
right
that's right.
now, yeah,
I still try bending my head around that NFT thing, right? Because, I mean,
me
you
too.
say, like, "Okay, I created the Voice of Fire, and now I'm gonna take a digital picture of it, and I'm gonna sell it." And you're like,
Right,
"But you're not actually getting anything other than that digital picture." And
right,
I'm like, "Well, wait a minute. I can go online and I can take that digital picture." "Oh, but you don't
yeah,
really own that picture." You're
right,
like, "Well, uh" you're like, "But okay."
yeah.
So
Is it a status thing, or like yeah, I'm with you. I don't really quite understand. And Stacey was kind of explaining a little bit to me,
yeah,
and made it a little bit more clear. But I'm thinking like it's almost like kind of like I guess like when you collected baseball cards, like you could
yes,
see a baseball card, but you don't actually own that. And so I don't know if that makes a little bit
right?
more sense, but still, like, I don't have $1 million to spend on a piece of digital art of a
Yeah,
meme or something like that I
yeah,
saw online. That, like you said, I could just click on Google and there it is. But
that's right, right?
um,
The
but I'm also
amazing
not
things
going to
you can
argue with
search
it
in
either.
Photoshop. Yeah,
Yeah, like,
"Oh, no, that's
I think this
legit."
is a great idea.
Yeah, 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 exactly. So, and let me tell you, and I know this kinda dives into, like, the deeper world of the starving artist, but,
Mhm.
I was so poor as an artist at one point, I actually forged my own bus passes, and
Oh,
it
well, at least you
worked.
were able to create them, right?
Well, exactly. So at least I was saving $150 a month, you know?
Right.
So, and it took some work, let me tell you. Like, I mean, you
Oh,
had to see, like, what the next month's color was gonna be, and then, like, what was the pattern, and you're just like, "Yeah, I can do that."
were you
Um,
nervous though? Like the first couple times you tried to pass it off?
100%
Oh yeah,
every time, right?
yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
sweating.
Yeah, and then, of course, when they wanted you to, because, of course, the one thing about the pass is you couldn't scan it. It was a visual thing, right?
Oh, right, just
So
the
so you had to make sure you were always in an area where you could just scan or you could just flash it as opposed to having to swipe it. So,
oh yeah.
yeah, so it got catchy, and you had to be a little creative behind it, and,
Right.
I just realized how illegal that made me sound. But, when
That
you're
was then.
that's exactly, yeah, right? I mean, and
Well,
that's why I'm not
statute of
also saying that
limitations.
city, so that city can't come back at me. So,
Exactly.
yeah, it was a long time ago. So, but,
But you're right though, man. There definitely is like yeah, I mean there definitely is times where I mean not right now, like I'm okay now, but there was definitely times even in like not super recent years, but recent enough years where it was like, oh my God, like how am I gonna get by? And like
yeah,
luckily I have a day job. I work at a bank by day and I do
okay.
graphic design for a bank. And then in the evenings when I do all the Snoop and all that kind of like the freelance stuff, it's like more entertainment industry and sports industries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So luckily, I always have the day job to kind of have my like my base money, and then like this like side stuff is just it's extra, it's extra income and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
it's good exposure. But yeah,
Sometimes
they're
that
definitely.
side stuff pays better than the day stuff. So
It does, but then the night stuff doesn't have health insurance, and so
it's
there's
important.
pros and cons to each.
Yeah. 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 100%. 100%. So, and you know what, like, and that's the thing, right? I mean, like you said, people say, oh, but you do art for this person. Like, you've got to be making great money. And it's like, well, don't get me wrong. Like, it's good money. And I appreciate that money because you really do. Because
Right.
that extra,
Oh
it makes
yeah.
a difference of like, where are you eating? Are you going and spending time with friends? Like maybe you have a car or maybe you don't now, right? Like
Right.
it can make a big difference in life, but it's not the end all be all, right? Again, it's not like
Right.
you've got something in the Guggenheim or you've got a piece that's
Yeah.
1.8 million or $3 million for 30 seconds of your time, right? So
Right.
um,
Yeah.
I remember I was in New York City and I saw a display and it was a series of bricks across the floor. And then it
Mhm.
like I think it went like 5 or 6 up the wall. And I actually thought it was just a piece of like structural architecture they were taking out. I thought it was like it was a construction zone. And it turned out it was something worth like $20 million or something. I'm like, that is
Just for
12
bricks?
bricks. That was 12 bricks. Yeah.
How, like, I don't know, that's something I still can't wrap my brain around, and I always say, like, I always tell my mom, I said, "Mom, I'm not an artist because I don't think like that." Like, I don't like I say I feel like I'm just a regular person that just happens to do art. I don't really have like that super like and maybe that's a good thing that I don't think 20 bricks is worth $20 million, like.
So but here, so this is what gets me, right? Like that is a different type of artist. That's called a con artist, right?
Yeah,
Because I'm sorry,
exactly.
what kind of story can you spin that actually says that tells people why that is worth what it's worth? Like you got to snow job some pretty rich ass people to
Yeah.
convince them that is worth that much money,
And that's a talent in and of itself. If you can convince somebody that 15 bricks on the ground is worth $20 million, more power to you, man.
right?
Let me invest with
Exactly.
you. Let me get on your plan.
Yeah. See, I feel like my cousin would have been fantastic at that. Like he has
Oh,
always
really?
had the fantastic gift to schmooze and talk. And I feel like if anything, maybe he needs to be the person that an artist hires to sell.
Yeah.
Because like he's fantastic with being able to convince people that that's something they want to do. Got me in a lot of trouble sometimes, but let me tell you, that also got it was great adventures too. So
You can also talk yourself out of that trouble pretty quick too, I'm guessing, right?
100%. Yeah, yeah. I have never seen someone with such a horseshoe up his butt that I was just like, I don't know.
Wow.
You look and wonder, like, how did you just talk yourself out of that? So yeah,
My brother's very good like that. I always say my brother's very like I'm the kind of person that's the opposite. Like I'm like, oh, I don't know, like give me $200 for it or whatever like that. And it's like, no, like you should be getting like 3,000 for it. And I'm like, it's fine. They don't have a ton of money. Like where I need like a shark that's gonna come in. And my brother's not a shark, but he's a very good people person. He's very good at talking to people. And I feel like I need somebody like that that like could, really be my muscle where I could just kind of
yeah,
sit in the
yeah,
background, the shadows, and do the art stuff. And
yeah. I
because
feel
up
like
till now
every
I've been.
designer needs that. Like a graphic
Yeah,
designer needs someone who truly explains the worth of what they're
yeah,
getting, right? And
absolutely.
there just isn't like someone like you can quote a job and how long it might take, but every time I've ever done a project, someone has always changed it, and then you try to be like, we've kind of gone a different direction. That's more, oh no, you said it would be this much. So like
Right.
you got to be really careful how you word that contract when you're
Yes.
talking to people, like, and let them know outright, like if we make changes, I've made a variance or an allowance for X number of changes. But
Right.
like, but I've had people go in a completely different direction once we started, or I've almost finished the project, and they're like, hey, you know what? I was talking to my wife last night, and we thought, we're gonna go with this type of design instead. And I'm like, that's
Oh,
30 hours into the work. And I'm like, are
oh,
you
I know.
insane?
And they don't get it. I feel like because that's happened. I mean, I think we all as designers, we all have those horror stories, and I feel like they happen far too much. And it's like one of those things where you put in a full week of work into it, and then it's like, well, or a lot I've done like album covers and stuff like that for people, and you get the whole thing done. And I did one recently, and at 3 weeks, it was earlier this year. I took 3 weeks. I spent so much time on it, and then like I kept trying to like follow up, like I didn't get paid yet,
Yeah.
and I keep following up, like it hasn't come out yet, and where is it, and every time I would call this guy that hired me for the job, well, they just signed to a new label, so there's some label issues, but hang in there. And I'm like, okay, I don't care if it ever comes out, but somebody needs to
You
pay
still
me.
gotta pay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
never got paid. The project never came out, and I'm so frustrated because I spent so much time doing this project, and
So I
it's
have to ask you, in this particular case, right? Um,
Mhm,
because this is like for a band, and you don't
mhm,
know if like, okay, did your band break up? Did your band change directions? Like, what if they take that art and they just kind of slightly relabel it and they take it over and it's under a different name, but because it's a different name, that contract is now technically void. Like, do you
right.
feel like you have to keep scanning the music world to see if pieces or aspects of your art ever comes up, or you just like, fuck it, whatever?
I sometimes, but the people I did the project for, I won't say the name, but they're like super well known.
Okay.
And so like, and it's only two of them essentially at this point. So I feel like they really, I mean, I guess they could add another person and rebrand themselves, but they have been famous for years, like years and years. So from like the 80s, late
Okay.
80s or whatever. So like, I feel like that probably is just who they are. That would be like the Beatles
Okay.
kind of changing their name now, or like it would be like it'd be a shock, I think, if they did change their name. And to be
Okay.
fair to the group, it wasn't them. It was like a manager type figure that was like, putting this
Yeah.
whole thing together. So the group signed off on it. They liked the work, but they probably have no idea that he was making these deals behind the scenes. And, I had worked with this guy before. So there was like a little bit of a trust factor, but, and,
Uh,
I'm not going to say names. I don't want to bury anybody, but it's one of those frustrating things where you work for 3 weeks and straight, like literally up till
yeah.
3 in the morning, 3 weeks straight, turn it in, love the project. They're excited about it. And then like months go by and it's like, what's going on? Like, is it
Show
coming
me the
out? And
money.
then,
Yeah.
yeah. And then at the very least, yeah, show me the money. I'd love to see the art out there, but
Yeah.
if that's not going to come out,
Right?
just give me something that would make it worth
Show me half
my
the
time.
money. You
Show me,
know, like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, show
yeah,
me half. We'll talk about the other
yeah,
half when you release it, if that's the case. But come on, give me some
yeah.
good faith. Bring some cash forward. And see, this goes back to where I say people just don't appreciate the amount of time, the amount of work, because I think what it is people view a designer that like, wow, you're talented. This is easy for you.
Yes.
But what they don't realize is you're your worst critic. Like, you have gone through so many revisions and so many
Oh
changes
yeah.
before it even gets to them because it doesn't pass your like bar of this is
Yeah.
good, right? And that's where they just think, oh, you just kind of doodled it out and it looks great. Yeah, we'll go with it. And you're like, yeah, 30 hours of doodling,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, yeah.
16 revisions and yeah,
People always tell me like you have the cool job, and like it is cool, but at the same time, like you said, it's work, and it's more the talent's there, but it's more mental anguish because, like you
yeah,
said, I'm like we are our own worst critics, and I will sit there and draw 75 of the same figure before I get it right, and I'll have like a stack of junk paper everywhere because I just keep like I almost have it. And the beauty now though, and it makes it a little bit easier is that, with these like Illustrator and these programs that you could kind of you screw up a foot and it's like, well, I can fix it in Illustrator, and
that's right.
in the
I'll just throw a new
past.
layer down and yeah.
Right, and just throw
Yeah.
a different foot. So that's been
Pen and
like a
paper days.
lifesaver.
Oh my
Oh
god,
my
like,
god. You
right?
probably
Like, that's
remember getting a full figure drawn. You get like to the final, like their feet, and it's like
yeah,
that everything else is drawn, and then like you screw a foot up, and it's an
yeah,
ink or something. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
and
To me, it was always the hand. For some reason, the
yes,
perspective of the hand never looked right.
I'm the
And
same.
yeah, and to me, like, oh my god, that was the most frustrating thing possible. And and
Yes,
and then conveying depth of, like, say if the person had their hand out, like, you have to
yes,
say, okay, yeah, that hand's gonna be bigger, that, the proportions will be out because there's depth in there. But then how do you
right,
shade it just right to show that depth?
right.
And yeah, it gets so frustrating. And you know what, it's one of those things that honestly it still bugs me to this day. When I think about it, I'm just like, oh my god, like this shit I went through, you know
Right?
And let me tell you, I can tell you I was not making, and I don't know what it was, but I can guarantee you I was not making Snoop Dogg money for it. So, but that also says where your talent is at, right? Like you get recognized for someone of that caliber, and
Yeah.
it means a lot. I mean, you might say, yeah, I'm not an artist, or I'm not like that, but deep down, like you're an artist, and you've done really good for yourself when you can not only secure an album cover but multiple albums from the same person, because it really shows how much they trust you and what you do.
Yeah, it's and I think for most of my life, I still to a lot of extent, I'm not super motivated by money. I'm I always say I'm not an artist, but I do have that artist mind where I'm like, I would rather see my stuff on these grand stages than I would have $1 million, because I know how hard I worked from when I was a little kid, drawing all
Mhm.
the time till now. And so it's like there is like a certain satisfaction to see, like stuff in Times Square, or see
Oh,
like Snoop
100%.
on Ellen, like wearing like clothes that I did, or on like, Kimmel, or these late night shows, and or any shows. I mean, everywhere he goes, he has, we've designed so much gear for him, like jackets, like this one jacket he wears all the time. I helped design that, and he's everywhere with it. And so
It's awesome.
stuff like that is cool. So like, like,
Right.
I always kind of joke that the money's not there necessarily, but I have so many stories, and there's like a certain coolness, I guess, about just like turning on, like he was on The Voice a couple months ago, and he was like wearing this outfit, and I'm like, it's just neat to turn on this giant like TV show, and it's like a piece of work that I did in Scranton, PA, at this desk here. And it's
Yeah.
cool, when
Oh,
I
it's
step back and
amazing.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Like
don't take it
you
in that
have
often.
art and here's the thing though, your art has probably been seen by more people than even Van Gogh's art has been seen by,
Yeah,
right? Like when you
honestly.
really put it down like that. So like you got to give yourself a little bit more credit than that, man. Like people, the only difference is people see a Van Gogh, they know it's Van Gogh.
Right.
People see your stuff, they don't necessarily know that's a Justin Roach,
Right.
right?
Exactly. And
So
that's kind of the hope
unless
at
they
some
turn
point.
around and say, "Oh, this was designed by,"
Right.
and sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's not that the artist doesn't see it or think about it. It's just that there's so much going on. Unless someone asks that specific question, it just may not get dropped.
Yeah,
Right?
for
So,
sure. And that's kind of, I think a lot of times I don't think about, I don't really reflect on what I do a whole lot, just because it seems like everything goes so fast. You know what I mean? So as
yeah.
soon as I finished Snoop's like most recent album, it was right on to like the next project, and so you finish it, and there's just so much anxiety and stress. There's tight deadlines. There's, hey, we need these changes right away. And so it's like a lot of just, and they're great to work with. So it's not like they're being difficult, but I get it. This is grand scale. This is, the record label needs it right away. So you have to, okay, I'll give me a half hour. I'll get it fixed. And so you're going a million miles an hour, and then you finish, and you have that brief like, all right. But then it's like, okay, what's next? I have this list on my desk of like, okay, what project's next? And it's right into the next thing. So I don't really have a ton of time to really, I shouldn't say I don't have time, but I don't really ever sit back and think like, wow, like that's so cool. And when I do think about it, it is neat, because Snoop was, when I was 13 years old, I like idolized him. His first album came out, and like I worshipped him. And so to now, like, years later, I've done like probably more than 100 projects for him.
Wow.
And again, I don't really think about it much, but then when I sit back and think about it, it's like, oh, that is kind of cool, like. And I've told him, I said, like,
Yeah.
13-year-old me would be like shitting myself if I like met him, or, if he asked me to do art for him. I said, now it's like I'm a little bit more reserved, but it's still a cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've
Exactly.
been lucky.
So you actually get to interact directly with him when you're working on pieces. It's not like one of those things that his manager comes in and said, "Oh, this is what he's looking for." Like at least you can get it right from the horse's mouth and say, he's like, "No, this is what I want."
Yes and no. It depends. Sometimes yes. So for the most recent one, let me back up. Well, a lot of the work I do with Snoop, it involves Joe Cool, who's Snoop's first cousin, and Joe did. Are you familiar with Snoop's first album, Doggy Style?
Yep.
It was like that. in like the 90s, that big one. It had like the cartoon dog on the cover. And
Yeah.
so Joe Cole did that album cover, and he's Snoop's first cousin. They grew up together, like lived with each other growing up and stuff.
Yep.
And so I ended up linking up with Joe like 11 years ago. And Joe told me at the time, he said, I don't color anything. He said, I sketch stuff out, I draw stuff, but I don't color anything. And so that's kind of how he and I got together. And it's like, it's a whole long story. I won't bore you with the whole details, but it was, no, I should tell you this because it's an interesting story.
This isn't a boring thing. Yeah.
I went to a Snoop show out of the blue. Like I was still listening to stuff here and there, but I was living in Pittsburgh at the time, and he was coming to town for a concert. And so I went to the show, and I was like, that'll be cool. Just kind of like reliving childhood a little bit. And I went to it, and after the show, I start digging out I have like all these old CDs, and I start like marveling at that album cover. And when I was a kid, I loved Joe Cole's art. I used to draw. I actually, matter of fact, I still have drawings of the dogs when I was like 13 years old in Joe's style. I would draw these dogs. And so I said, you know what? I think I'm going to try to find contact information on this guy. I would love to try to buy an original piece from him or commission him to do something for me. It's affordable, if it's within reason. So it took 2 months. I tried so hard to track him down. This is back in like, I think 2010 or 11. Okay. And so social media was still a thing, but it wasn't I feel like it's so easy to find people now.
Yes.
And back then, I'm looking for Joe Cole. I'm getting Peanut stuff, and like or Joe Montana, like things that are related to Joe Cole. Yep. And finally found that he did a radio interview on some radio station in Texas like 6 months prior. And like on a long shot, I emailed the guy, the DJ, and said, hey, listen, like I've been trying to get a hold of this Joe Cole guy. I know that you interviewed him. Any chance you have like an email or a phone number? And he said, yeah, I got his email. I'll give it to you. And so he sent me the email. I emailed Joe that night and just kind of explained. I said, listen, I do art. And at the time I was working with different artists, but certainly not like on the Snoop level. And and I just told him, I said, in the email, I said, listen, like, you were like one of my biggest inspirations as a kid. I loved your art and I would draw all the time. And so indirectly in some way, or maybe directly, you kind of inspired me to kind of get into art and do art. And I was interested, if I could buy a piece from you, or if you have like, something I could purchase. And he gets back to me pretty quickly, and he said, yeah, $1,000. And at the time, this was in the super starving artist days. I'm broke as hell. I'm like yeah, it's like I could buy it, but I won't eat for 2 months, So
you got a payment plan?
yeah, right. Yeah. Can I put that on layaway?
Yeah.
So I said, I didn't want to look like a chump. I was like, oh yeah, definitely. I said, give me just a little bit of time to get some money together, and I'll definitely get back to you. And I'm thinking like, how can I do this? Like, how can I make it work? And so that night I stayed up like all night. I drew like a couple illustrations of him, like real detailed. I colored them, did like this full presentation. And then I wrote back to him and said like, hey, listen, like I'm still interested, but just give me a little bit of time to get some money together. But in the meantime, I just wanted to show you like my art, like some of the stuff that I do. So I did a couple quick illustrations of you, and they're in the email, and hope you dig them or something like that. Hope you like them. And I sent the email, and I signed my name and just put my phone number at the bottom. And like 5 minutes later, the phone rings, and Joe's a character, like super funny guy, real like gruff voice. And he said, hey, is this Justin Roach? I said, yeah. He said, what the hell's going on, brother? He said, hey, this is Joe Cole. And I said, hey, what's up, man? He said, listen, man, you were phenomenal. I want you to start working with me. And I'm like, huh? And I didn't realiase at the time that
you still want $1,000?
Right, yeah, well, he said, you don't owe me anything. He said, I'll do whatever work you want. He said, I'm going to send you 2 pieces, 2 samples. It's kind of like your test. I want you to do them over the next couple of days. And if you pass the test, then you're my new guy. He said, I don't color anything. I didn't realize this. He said, I don't color anything. And so I need a guy that could sharpen all my stuff up, color it. And so I did these 2 pieces for him. And he said, yeah, you're my guy. And we've been working. It was just so matter of fact. It wasn't like I wasn't messaging him to work with him. I was just trying to buy art from him.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I'm like doing these projects
you're
for
working
Snoop,
for
and like, yeah, and it's yeah. So then I'm working with Joe, and then he and I became friends, and it was interesting, how it all happened,
yeah.
and now we have it down to a science. My first couple of years, I feel like I was like really shaky still. Like he liked it, but I was like, oh, I look back at the stuff and was like, oh, it's bad. But we've kind of gotten to a science now. He sketches it, he'll send it to me, and I kind of redraw it. I put it in
Mhm.
Illustrator, I clean make sure all the lines are clean, and
Okay,
then
yeah.
like if there's
Little
any like
vectoring.
like yeah, a little any and if there's any errors with the hands, like kind of like we were talking about, he'll say, "Hey, Roach, fix that shoe." Like I do the shoe, I effed it up. Fix the shoe, fix that hand, blah blah blah. Add some stuff in the background. So it's become a thing where like at first I was just kind of coloring his stuff, and now it's like I actively help illustrate these things. I add, like on the newest one, I did a lot of the background scenery on Snoop's new album. I did a lot of the background scenery and a lot of the filler stuff. He did like the dog on the doghouse and stuff like that. So
Okay, yeah.
yeah, it's just a really interesting. It was really interesting. It was almost accidental how it happened. It
Yeah,
wasn't meant to
yeah.
be, but I guess it was in some way meant to be. So
Well, and
it's
and think of it this way also, you not only work for now kind of one idol, but two, right?
yeah,
Not a lot of people can say that, and they
yeah,
always say, "Oh, careful, who you look up to and meeting your idols and stuff." But I mean, you've had a
right,
fantastic experience out of it, and it's
yeah,
truly what people dream of. Like, I mean, when you are a fan of something, you truly hope that it's everything you really wished for, right? Or that it was like
yeah.
know the process, and I'm sure not only has he inspired you, but he probably continues to inspire you with like again, what he comes up with or his own story behind things, and it's kind of
Yeah.
nice to share things like that, right? So things that
I
most
get him
people
on
don't get the opportunity.
I get him on the phone, and I pick his brain because Joe was with Snoop, during all that, like Dr. Dre's The Chronic, Doggy Style. He was in the Tupac. He has all these crazy Suge Knight. He has like Joe has insane stories, and so I'm like mesmerized. I'm like, I'll just get on the phone for 2 hours and be like, what else happened? Tell me more. And he'll say, what are you? What are you, the FBI? Like, quit asking me
Like,
questions.
no,
But
I'm just
I'm
I'm
so
just winding
intrigued.
down for bed. I need a story. Come on.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, for real, man. But it's been a fun experience for sure. And like you said, I sometimes I tell Joe, I said, I'm not just telling you this to make you feel better, but like in some ways I almost feel like it's cooler to work with you. And no disrespect to Snoop, obviously, because he's super huge and he's awesome. But I
It's okay.
said
I'm
just
pretty sure
because
Snoop isn't watching this tonight, so you can say
he might be, you never know.
you never know.
I
Snoop, give
I
the
told
call. Yeah.
Joe, I said I was never trying to be a rapper. So if I was trying to be a rapper, I'd be thrilled that Snoop was talking to me. But I was always wanted to be an artist. So you're one of the artists I looked up to. So like that's why to me it's very cool. And I say like you guys are maybe I won't put him above Snoop. I'll say you guys are on the same level at least.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Right.
but
I
yeah,
mean, he's like the artistic rapper, versus the actual physical rapper. So
right,
and
right,
and and that's the thing, right? Like your art conveys a feeling, and that is like you're essentially trying to capture Snoop and his essence and his music and do it graphically. And that
right,
itself has got to be like a crazy challenge sometimes, like it's like you could say, "Oh, I'm going to use this color palette or this is going to have the great feel." And then someone would say, "Yeah, but isn't it just the same thing?" But it's not because each album has its own feel, right?
right. And
Yeah.
he for this current one, I'm sorry, I have it like hanging over on the wall there. I keep pointing up to it. You can't see it if you're watching, but he um he actually sent a video to Joe and I and saying like, here's what I want, and he explained in detail. He said, I want a dog and I want him sitting on the doghouse. I want the dog character, my dog character. I want him sitting on a doghouse. I want it like in a museum. He said, so I want a bunch of Def Jam record label plaques, like platinum plaques hanging on the wall behind me. And he said, I want a freeway sign behind me as well. And it says like Def Jam West. So he really like gave very explicit directions like this is what I
Wow.
want, and so
Yeah.
which is great because then you don't have to worry about handing it in and being like what the hell did you put this stuff on for. He very
Yes.
specifically said I want, and he named the albums that he wanted the plaques for. So it was like, oh, this is, I mean, keep talking, keep giving me more info so I could just do exactly what you said. And I one thing I'll say about him that I always tell people is you would think because of how famous he is and how big he is that he would be kind of difficult. He'd be a like nitpicker, with like,
Mhm.
like this is I don't like this. He's the easiest guy to work for. Of all the clients I've ever worked for, and I'm talking like even like local people, like it shouldn't be nitpicky about things. Snoop is the easiest. There's never any changes. It's always like, yeah, that's great. Let's go with it.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah, that's cool.
okay.
Honestly,
So
I know you said clients for a second. I thought you said of all the chronics I've worked with, and I thought, oh my god, that's hilarious. But I just realized that was in my own head.
we can call them that too if you want. That could be the new name for them.
So I was like, some people would say, well, geez, he should be the most relaxed guy ever. But
Right.
yeah.
Right.
But it's true, there's also so much pressure for an artist to have everything right. And again, this comes back to their album because, there are people who buy music because they've got a following. There's other people that will get music or purchase music because they just happen to see an album cover and they're like, oh, geez, what is this? Right. And it's like a book when you're walking through a bookstore. I mean, you might know one or two authors that you super like, but then all of a sudden you just happen to see a book that catches that, which draws you to flip it over. And that's how that purchasing process works with some people. Right. So, like half the sales can also just come from that album cover, and yeah, it's maybe should be getting a raise. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Are you interested in representing me, Anthony?
Yeah.
Have a great opportunity.
No, that's okay. I probably wouldn't even know what to say in front of them. So it's okay when you're behind the scenes talking about it. So
right. Yeah. I was obsessed with album covers when I was a kid. So that's why it is neat sometimes. Snoop, even like aside from him, I was obsessed with album covers. And I have like 3,000-4,000 CDs still. Like I would just every week I'd go to the record store, buy stuff, and I would study the album covers. I would look at them and so it's neat to be able to kind of to now do that. And then who knows? I don't know if that's still true because everything's digital now, but maybe there's people now, like younger kids looking at me like, oh my God, I love that. And like, I would just hope that in some way, maybe stuff that I do, and I don't know if it does, but maybe stuff that I do, goes down to like another generation now and inspires them to try to, I want to do album covers and I want to do artwork. And I feel like they missed the experience of going to the record store though and being able to pull the sleeve out and like really leaping through the booklet and everything. And
remember when they actually used to have like all the lyrics like in their songs. The booklets were super thick. I remember going to the CD stores and like let's be honest, I predate CD stores, but I remember when they came out, and I remember going, and I remember like an album was almost $40 a pop, and like you kind of spent half your paycheck just getting music that you liked, or sometimes you buy an album just because it had one good song, and then you would luck out if all of a sudden 6 or 7 good songs on it, right? And people, because you can buy singles online and just add it to your music chart, I feel like you never go through the hardship of A, finding the album, B, finding that there's more than one song that you like on it. And if not, it's just, oh my God, I spent $40 for this song.
Right. That crushing defeat of actually buying the album and realizing every other song sucks except that one you bought it for. It was like, oh.
White Town. Oh God. I heard them on the radio the other day and I'm like, I bought that album. It was complete shit except for this song.
Was it horrible? I never heard it. I only know that song. And that is so catchy, that song.
It's such a great song, but you get into the rest of the album, it is absolutely abysmal. I'm just like, oh my God, they were truly a one-hit wonder, which I feel really bad for. I'm saying that for anybody. But when you put out a song that good and you can't even have like half your songs come close to that, like that is hard. Like that's
tragedy.
Like, right? That would be like someone drawing the first Archie comic, and then just like after that, it's like Casper the Ghost, right? Like nobody wants to buy that.
Although I'm sure their royalties are probably still phenomenal because that song, you still hear that song on TV commercials and
television shows, everything, right? And it was so catchy. So let's hope that they still get some more of these out there.
I hope so.
Right? I mean, it's so funny how that kind of works out sometimes. So my cousin used to be an actor, and he did some commercials when he was younger, and he did a taco commercial, which was the worst thing in his life because, and I won't say the brand because it had nothing to do with the brand actually, but we used to as kids loved tacos. We thought they were the greatest things in the world, and we used to have like a weekly taco night and stuff because it was really cool. And he did this commercial, and it took him probably like 5 years to ever eat a taco again, because because he was playing the dad, and the kid kept screwing up his lines, and like those tacos were only hot for about 10 minutes because you're on a cooled set. And so for hours, he's eating ice cold tacos while the stupid kid couldn't get his lines down right. And he only had like 3 things to say. And he was just like, he's like, I just can't even look at another taco.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Once you have something like in that instance where you have to eat it hot and you start eating it cold over and over again, it would totally ruin it for me too, I think.
Oh God. Yeah. I couldn't even imagine. So it's just like juicy beef. That's just
I know.
New York nightmare or something. So but okay, so God, I honestly, there's so many times that I say, oh, there's so many more things that we can ask you, or so many more questions. But before we go too much further, I'd really love to jump into our slightly slower than average rapid fire questions, so we can get to know you a little bit better as a person. Of course, we've got 20 quick questions that we're going to ask you, and awesome. You just give us the first thing that comes to your mind. There's no right or wrong, and if it goes off on something, that's cool too. So
cool. Let's do it.
Are we ready? Excellent.
We are ready.
All right. So first question we like to ask people is, if you could make up a random word and add it to the English language, what word would you create?
How about this? Can I flip it? Can I do, if there's one word I could take out of the English language, can I do that?
You know what? I'm going to allow that. Yeah.
All right. Because I can't think of that. I hate the term. I don't know why. I hate the term. And it's really not a word. It's 2 words combined. But I hate the term man cave. It drives me nuts. And I don't know why. So if I could, instead of adding a word to the English language, I would take man cave out of it.
Man cave? Really? Okay.
I don't know why.
You don't know why it bothers you?
I don't. I guess I just think you
feel like it's a woman's made up word of saying you're still a kid?
No, I think the reason why, I think, is the only people in my life that have ever called their area a man cave, usually those people have been douchebags. And I think, like, I don't know if I just associate, like, surely not everybody that has a man cave is like that, but I feel like the 5 or 6 or so people that have told me about their man cave, I'm like, oh, I just could not be like,
kind of thing, right? It's
yeah,
like,
kind of
here, and they're gonna take a beer over here. Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about it, but it's one of those things I can't stand it. So I would strip that word out of the language.
Okay. Yeah. See, I turned that around. I spun that around because my wife would say that, and I'd say, well, that's just because you haven't built your she shack yet. So
oh yeah.
So which is where all her she shit goes. Which as we are of course renovating, we are come across a lot of she shit, let me tell you. So
do you have to like secretly throw it out or no?
Right. Well, no, God forbid I ever do that. You know what? It doesn't matter. She may not remember where it is, but she remembers every piece of that she shit. Let me tell you.
Isn't it crazy? Like I feel like I'm the same way.
Yeah,
like the goofiest stuff that I never use. It'll be in a drawer, and I haven't used it in 6 years, but I can tell you exactly where it is, and I never open that drawer. It's just so weird how we have like weird memories for certain things like that, like weird shit that we don't ever use.
You're right. I have the same thing, and it is for the most useless shit in the world. Like I can't remember her phone number if I didn't have it in my phone, but I can remember a quote from a Simpsons cartoon 25 years ago, and she's like, "How the fuck do you remember that useless piece of shit, and you can't remember this?" So, and it's true. You know what? I give her props. You're right. I don't know how, but for some reason it is in there, and that is not. So
lyrics to songs in the same way. Songs I don't even like, I could rattle off the entire song. Right. And like, how do I remember that? But I don't know basic science. You know, like I couldn't tell you basic human anatomy, but I could tell you, I could sing the lyrics to a Gin Blossom song from 1993. But I don't even like.
When the song comes on the radio, you hate it. You find yourself singing to it, and then you can't even remember the artist's name. Right, like that's what you're like, oh my god, I don't remember who sang the song, but somehow it's in my head. So somehow it got locked in with the important shit. I don't know how.
Exactly. Ridiculous.
Yes. Okay, so man cave, right on. What's the scariest dream you've ever had?
I used to have this recurring dream, and I guess you could say it was. I don't know if it was scary as much as it was frustrating. I always
Did
dreamt that
art
I
for
was in a.
someone and didn't get paid. How it keeps reoccurring.
That's not a dream, brother. I'm wide awake.
That's real life.
I used to always dream that, and not always, but I mean, like enough that I remembered it. I would dream that I was like, and it's so funny because I'm not like a violent person at all in my everyday life. I'm like the exact opposite. I'm so peaceful and tranquil. But I'd have these dreams where I was fighting people, and it was so frustrating, Anthony, because I would be punching and I could never connect, and it was just like the most frustrating thing because I keep
I've
punching
had
and
the
I'm not
same
hitting.
I've had the
Have
same
you really?
thing. It's like when you go
Really?
to throw the punch and either you look it looks like you've connected, but you don't feel the impact and it
Yeah.
feels like you're weak as a kitten and you're just like, wait a
Yes.
minute. I don't feel like if I
Yes.
got in a fight that I'm gonna completely get knocked over by a feather. And yet
Right.
like you feel so emasculated and so weak in your
Yes.
dream that you're actually worried that if you ever did get in a fight, you would lose horribly.
So that's the fear. That's the nightmare because it was like, oh my God, like I don't think I would get. I'm not saying I would win this fight. I'd probably get rocked, but I think I'd be able to land at least one. And it was just, and I had him so many times. I probably had him a dozen times this dream, and I'm just
Yeah.
it felt like my swings were so slow too. Like my
Yes,
face is getting speed bagged. I'm like, like trying to
right?
land this punch. And yeah, I don't know. It's just frustrating, man. But
You're
yeah, and
the
also
only other
scary.
person I know that has had that dream. I tell people, they're like, "Nah,
Really?
I beat the shit out of them." And I'm like, "Are you
Oh,
lying to me? Is this like one of those things that actually can't happen in dream world?" And then you're just making me feel like a wuss.
oh
But yeah,
no.
no, that is the first time I've
Wuss's
ever heard.
unite.
Yeah, that is the and it is the most frustrating dream because you wake up and like I
Yeah.
said, you feel almost ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, I am. I'm like, oh, I hope nobody was watching this dream that I was having because I look like such a bitch in
Oh yeah, yeah.
it.
You're like, God, I hope this is on some type of weird Matrix game show and everybody's having a laugh at me.
Yeah,
So
like, oh, look at this guy.
so of course the flip side to that is what superpower do you wish you could have?
Um, you know what? If I could have, and I think it would be a superpower. I would love to, above anything else, above flying or anything like that. I would love to be able to communicate with dogs. Like, I would love to know what a dog is saying, or like what they're like.
Amazing.
I would love to know like what they're thinking. And I
I think
always
that
say,
all the time right now because I have a dog that does not listen to me at all. And
really?
I can't help but think like, are you super stupid or are you like super ignorant?
Are you
Like,
a wise
are
ass?
you just like you are not going to tell me what to do, or like did she just go through such a bad because she's a rescue, and I could just
Oh,
think like,
okay.
did you just go through such a traumatic experience that like you're brain dead now, but the body just keeps moving with lots
Yeah,
of energy and power? Like I cannot get this dog to heal to save my life. It's
really,
like walking her is like having someone rip my arm off for a half an hour.
really.
And
Is it a big dog?
no, she's actually a mid-sized dog. She's not
Okay,
super big. She's a coconut hound, um,
okay.
but she's solid muscle. It's like looking
Wow,
at a Doberman in a smaller dog almost,
really?
with big satellite dish ears. Yeah, it's
Oh, wow.
weird. But she's
That's cool.
strong, like super strong to the point where if you're not paying attention, she could pull you into a ditch. So
Really?
yeah, it's freakishly weird. So
Don't you wish you could like sit down and like I mean it sounds so weird and like I promise
yeah,
you I'm not a crazy person, but like don't you wish you could like sit down and be like what's going on?
yeah,
Or just even like I'd love to have a conversation with like a dog. Like just
right.
like talk and say like what like what's on your mind? Like
Just bond
when
with
you,
that dog and just like
yeah.
well, because it'd be like, they always say like, "Oh, a dog's man best friend." Just like, this dog is not my best friend. Like, let me tell you, I love her. I think she's super sweet and everything, but I think she hates me. Like, I think she tolerates me and maybe uses my body for warmth sometimes, but, like, for the most part, she's kind of like, if you're not given, you're not getting, and even
Right.
then, if it's like I try to feed the dog, like, she looks at me, she takes the treat, and then she just does what she wants anyways. And
Really?
it's kind of looking at you like, "Yo, thanks for the treat, but I'm still doing this." Um,
How long have you guys had her for?
this would be our 2nd year, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So she came from the Dominican Republic. She was
Oh, right.
horribly abused. Someone had chopped off her
Oh,
tail, and she had some
I hate
scars.
that.
But I mean, other than that, she's like a super beautiful, loving dog. She
Yeah.
she thinks she's smaller than she is because she tries to sit on you, and it's like horribly awkward, and your legs kind of go dead after 5 seconds of it.
Right.
But like if she wants my attention and I'm on the phone or I'm lying back and like messaging someone, she'll literally walk up and punch me in the face. Like she full on like snaps that leg up and down on top of my face. Like it feels like someone just punched you. And in fact, it's like now I feel super wussy because I can't punch that hard in my dream. Right?
Dream.
Right? Yeah.
It all comes full circle.
Yeah. So when she's upset and thinks I'm on the phone too much, she smacks me in the face. And
she's not in the room with this podcast now, is she?
No. If
am I going to get to see her blast you or what?
See, the problem is if she would let me do the show for 5 minutes, and then you'd see the nose coming up under the screen. Like she would keep getting up, and just like it'd be like a shark, like an orange shark kind of like coming in and out.
I love that.
So one of these days, maybe I'll invite her, and she can go sit up on the couch at the end of the studio and come over.
And if I had that superpower, I could tell you what she was doing and say, right? Anthony, I know why she's doing that. See, that's what I would wish for. If I had one superpower, I would just love to communicate with a dog and get to know what they're thinking and why they do some of the crazy shit that they do. Or I don't know. I'm fascinated by them. So
100%. Yeah. No, I love that. You know what? And you know what? There's probably tons of people out there like me that can't get their dog walking properly. And there's probably just a simple thing like the dog's like, I actually don't speak English. I speak Spanish. So can you like maybe have this asshole change and try to accept my culture, and maybe I'll start, So God, I'd love to know. So there's probably got to be other people out there that need the dog whisperer because they probably love their dog, but the dog's a jerk. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, man, that would be mine. That would be above everything else. I think above invisibility or anything like that. I would love that'd be my first one if I could pick.
Let me tell you, man, you would be rich. Like, I guarantee you, if it's not just from the freakish sense that you can actually talk to a dog but then there'd have to be someone else that could talk to a dog, be like, no, he's right. Because if not, then they just think you're crazy, unless the dog specifically does what you ask or say it wants.
Right.
But if the dog then just looks back at you like, oh no, I'm not going to do it. You'd be like, oh, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. You'd be like the best comment in the world. Be like, your dog right now is telling me they love lasagna. Like, give me $3,000 for this session. And I would love that. Yeah, you're right. That could be a very marketable talent if I could talk to dogs. So I'll work on that.
As long as you turn around and be like, dude, don't make me look like an asshole. Like we got to agree here.
Right. I'll give you unlimited treats. Don't make me look bad.
We'll work out an agreement here. All right. Question number 4. What's your earliest childhood memory?
I would say I had this stuffed animal named Dinky. He was a little stuffed pig. Okay. And I was obsessed. I actually have a tattoo of Dinky on my arm. That's how obsessed I was. I carried it with me. I got it when I was 3.
Oh my God. Do I have to zoom out here so we can see this tattoo?
I don't know. Let me see if I could. I actually have the pig still too. He's somewhere. He's like in a bag somewhere, but I don't know if you'd be able to see it.
Let's see if we zoom in. There we go. Yeah.
Oh wait, there he is.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
I'll have to find a picture. I'll have to send you a picture of him over there. But I was obsessed with this pig when I was a kid. Like, and so like I don't know why. Like that's one of the early memories. I remember my mom would like hang him outside. She couldn't dry the thing, and so like she would wash him because he was filthy. I had him in my mouth all the time, and she'd hang him out in the line, and I would cry at the window. I'm like, oh, I want the pig. So that was like one of my. Yeah, that was like one of like oddly enough, it's like one of my earliest memories of like childhood, and just I have an older brother, so just playing with him, he was always super protective and just I had like great parents. So it's just just family stuff like that. I kind of remember, but the pig Dinky was at that time he was my life. So that's probably my earliest childhood memory.
You're super lucky because my brother, if he'd wait for a friend or a girlfriend to walk over, he's like, oh, he's in his room playing with his Dinky. Like he would do it just totally because my friends would be like, what the fuck?
How does my brother think? I never even thought. He said he's got his key in his mouth, his bedroom. Because I just carried him with the ear all the time and walk around. That's with this hanging out of his mouth. So No,
They
that's
walk in the room and you just spun around and you're standing there with this thing hanging in your mouth.
yeah. Hey.
How's it going? Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Dinky. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
What makes you happiest?
Um, I think just being around people that, I mean, it's such a generic answer and it's so cliche. I think just being around people that I really like and care about and really like to be around. And
Yeah.
I also love aside from the people aspect of it, I love taking rides. I love just getting in my car and just kind of clearing out and just putting
Okay.
music on and just not knowing where I'm going. Just kind of get in the car and just drive till I find a new town, or I found like I try to like just kind of like I don't want to say explore. It's not like I'm going to California. I'm just driving, an hour and a half away maybe, but just trying to find like different towns or different cool things, just on a whim. Just kind of get into
Yeah.
the car, and I feel like that's kind of my. I get so stressed out through the week, with
Mm-hmm.
art stuff, and doing it, during the day at work and then coming home. And I honestly, I'm up till 2 or 3 in the morning every night. And
Yeah.
so I'm just like, when the weekend comes, like a Saturday or Sunday, just getting in a car and like, that's just so therapeutic for me. Just like, I'm not going to think about any art right now. I'm just going to zone out. I'm going to maybe find a cool place, maybe find a cool restaurant in some town
Yeah.
I didn't know about. And then, that way, if it's cool, then I could tell friends or whatever, like, hey, you should check this place out. I
Yeah.
went to this weird town. And so, yeah, it's stuff like that. Just like, I love just doing that. So,
That's cool. Yeah, I know what that's like.
yeah.
For me, it's like that on the motorcycle. I get on my motorcycle
Oh,
and I
yeah.
just go. I just point myself in a direction and I take off, and it's great because it clears your mind because all you have to worry about is basically staying alive, and like
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully not, but nobody hits you because you're screwed regardless, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and then it becomes really amazing how your life becomes very narrowed and focused. And
Yeah.
it's very cool. It's really, really cool. The downside is then I find driving in a car very boring for me.
Oh, I was going to
Because
say it has to be,
yeah,
right?
it's tough,
What kind of
right?
bike
And
do
it's
you
not,
have?
mine's just a Suzuki LS 650. It's
Okay.
just kind of like a touring bike. But
Yeah. That's all
it's an
you
older
need.
model, but I rebuilt it myself, and
Oh, that's
it
awesome.
to me it holds so when I ride it, it's cool because I'm like I made this, and
You did it. Yeah. That's
so.
awesome. What color is
And
it?
I'm not. It's black. Yeah. So
Oh,
now, its
nice.
original color was a cherry red, a metallic cherry red, and
Oh, okay.
when I took off the tank to do some work, I was like, oh my God, look at the paint job in here. Like, why would someone cover this up? And don't get me
Right.
wrong, like I like the black bike, but
Yeah.
the paint job they put over top of it is so pale in comparison to what the original color was. I'm just like, oh,
Oh,
this is
really?
almost like a travesty that someone would do this.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful paint job, and
That's
so
cool.
so there's a
So
bit of
it has
shame
like
in
this,
there, but it's
yeah, like the sparkly kind of like that, like little, or because I remember some of those like older bikes had like that like
yes,
sparkle kind
it
of
has
like
like a
tint to the
metallic
paint.
fleck in it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like
Yes.
the sun hits it and it's like really glittery
Pops.
and yeah, it pops,
Yes.
and you're just like, I'm not even a red fan, and I look at that and I'm like, that's a really sweet paint
It's
job. Like,
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
Oh
I think that's the
man.
artist in me. Like, you're just like, you really appreciate the work that would go into that versus the person with
Yeah.
the gloss black paint that they just sprayed over top of it. And just
Yeah. Exactly.
right. So that's probably a winter project. I might have to touch that black up
Repaint it.
and or well, the problem about when you repaint a bike up here in Canada is if you change its color, you got to go to the DMV within 5 days to
Do you really?
change all the information, and it becomes
Wow.
so financially stupid that you just keep it the color, just maybe slightly clean the color up or something. So it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
it's unfortunate, but like you
You're
think
in
like
Ontario, right?
yes, yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
unfortunately, you don't get to ride that bike all the time. Like I look out at the
Right.
people in California thinking, oh man, that must be sweet just to be able to
All
ride
the
all year
time.
round, so
Yeah.
so
Do you
well
have
you
it
can. I see
parked
some
away for
people
the
doing it,
winter?
but yeah.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't
Six
do it on
layers of
snow,
clothing.
but if it's cold and I drove it a couple weeks ago, and it was just because I thought, oh, it's a beautiful day, and then I was going to go out to a friend's, and it got dark around 4:30, and it got cold really quick,
Oh,
and
yeah.
to the point where like you know, other than if it wasn't for the fact that the engine's keeping your legs warm, like it's
Oh
just like
yeah.
you have no feeling in your body, and then you're just like
Oh yeah.
it got that cold, and it's Canada cold,
Oh
right? So
man. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
yeah,
I feel like we undershoot it too. Once you get to like that, like almost fall going into winter, it's like it's still warm, and then like yeah,
yeah,
you get. I mean, I'm not on a bike, but like I even going out for like a run or a walk, it's like oh my god, it's so much cooler than I thought it was, and then multiply that times a million on a motorcycle. I'm
right.
sure, right?
Yeah, and of course the humidity really hits you hard when it's like cold and wet, you know. So
Oh
I drove into
yeah.
this big fog bank, and it's like ice built up on the visor because it was
Oh
just cold enough
man.
that it froze over the visor. So yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man. That's
it's just
cool
like
though. Have you
yeah.
taken out a lot like in the summer months and stuff?
You know what? So I just got it over the summer and rebuilt it. So I got a few
Oh okay.
because I've been renovating my house. I didn't get to get out on it nearly as much as I would like to, but every moment I
Yeah.
did, it was amazing. So I
It
really
gives you
really
something
enjoyed
to look forward to next spring, right?
it next spring. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. Got off track there. We
All
said,
right.
oh, what foreign language would you most likely like to learn?
Um, I would probably, I took Spanish in high school and even in college a little bit, and I don't remember any of it. And I feel like I would probably like to learn that just because I feel like a lot of the population in the United States is Spanish speaking,
Yeah,
and so I think just to kind of make life easier for everybody, like I would if I was to pick one, I think I would probably do Spanish.
it's good for the career. It's useful
Good
because
for
it
the
actually,
career.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I feel like
exactly.
it's the easiest one to learn too. I feel like as far as like foreign languages go, I feel like Spanish is very has a lot of similarities to English,
Yeah.
so it's not
So
as hard to learn.
it's really interesting. So up here in Canada, like you basically have to learn French if you're going to be in certain
Oh
areas.
yeah.
You have to know French, and I find there's a many words in the French language that almost cross over into the Spanish language, and
Oh
so
really?
yeah, so like bibliothèque and stuff. Like it's
Yeah.
there's similarities that are in that you're like that sounds a lot like this word in French, and it turns out you're like oh it's actually the same thing. So um,
Yeah.
so it's quite interesting, but I
Do
really
you I'm
Spanish.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Do you guys speak do a lot of Canadians are they able to speak French?
Um, I don't even think I could give you a statistic,
Kind of a vague question, yeah.
yeah, see in my world, I wish I did better in it than I did.
Yeah.
I probably wish I continued learning it. Just
Yeah.
again, from a career point of view, it opens a lot of doors,
Oh
especially
yeah,
if
I'm
you're in the
sure.
major areas like, Ottawa or Toronto to be bilingual. It makes
Yeah.
a big difference in your pace if you're
Oh
bilingual.
yeah.
And I really do wish I learned it, but I found first of all, if I can ask how to go to the bathroom or find a bathroom, that's a lifesaver for me.
Yeah.
But the other thing I do find it's really interesting because people complain that that the French are very arrogant, and if you
Mhm.
don't know French, they won't talk to you or give you the time of day, and it's actually not true. I have found from a business point of view, if you at least attempt, show some respect and attempt to try to speak
Sure.
French, or even if you could say, je ne peux pas parler français, est-ce que tu parles anglais? They'd be like, oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, I speak English. But if
Right.
you don't even give that chance, they'll just be
Right.
like, eh? So, yeah, yeah. So I actually think it's quite funny because even if you do, it's true.
Right.
Give a little respect. Try. You don't have
Yeah.
to be good. Or
Right.
or at
You're in
least
there.
they'll say, "Oh, hold on, I'll turn you over to our English person." Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. At
yeah,
least make an attempt. You're in their land. You shouldn't expect them to accommodate your language. And luckily for now, we have the phones that you could kind of like. Probably, I would be like typing something in and just like holding it up and showing like easy quick translation like bathroom. I set a point yourself. Like bathroom. Holds my jumping around.
it's like
Like
being
what's
a
this?
child and jumping around doing the universal
Yeah.
pee dance, right?
Yeah. That's
Oh
a
my god,
grand. Yeah.
yeah. You're like, "Yeah, you know what? Don't worry, I lost self-respect for myself. You don't have to look at me like that." Um, oh, okay, here we go. What decade would you like to go live in? So it doesn't have to be like a decade you have lived in. Like if you could time travel, what decade would you like to live in?
Um, that's a really good question. I I'm going to give you a cheap answer, I think here. I'm obsessed. And I say this just because I'm obsessed with the 90s. So obsessed with like 90s culture, like 90s pop culture. And so even though I lived through it, I almost kind of would love to go back to it. And
Okay.
I love to go back to it, maybe live it again as an adult. Like I lived it as a
Yes.
kid. I almost kind of would like, I don't know, maybe just experience it from like a different point of view.
Yeah.
There's so many other eras that I think are so cool. But I just don't know if I can narrow it down to one in particular. I'm going off experience because I
I,
just
I
love the
think
90s
90s
so
is
much.
fantastic. Like I mean, I was a child of 80s and 90s, and I
Yeah.
super loved it. And I mean, I still swear to this day that it had the best music, or at least it was the most influential time period for today's music.
Yes.
So I super
Absolutely.
love it. And it's so funny because my kids kind of look at me like I'm crazy when I'm like, oh, that's actually an old song. They just remade it, and they're like, what? Like, no, this. They just did this song, and I'm like, no. They took that from someone else.
Isn't
So,
it crazy to think that like stuff when we were like growing up like is now considered oldies?
yes,
Like
yeah,
songs from like this 80s and 90s are now like literally
right.
oldies. Like, oh my God.
Like, no, the oldies was the 50s and 60s. Damn it, that was
Right,
our
right.
generation, right?
It just
So
seems like such a big gap. Like when I was a kid, like I was born in '80, so like I grew up in the '80s and '90s were like my
yeah,
young and teen years. But I remember like my parents playing stuff from like the '60s. I'm like, this is awful. Like this sucks so bad. And I feel like our music, and maybe it's just that
the
bias because
disco
that's
era.
our era. But I thought our music was so much cooler. Like even if it's oldies now, it was still cool oldies. Like
That's right.
maybe kids now are like that shit. Maybe they're looking at the way I looked at, my parents' music. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It was
just
funny because my eldest was I had the radio on and Bon Jovi came on and she was singing along. And I was like, like look at all. I was like,
really, she knew it.
damn, right on. She likes some of the older
Wow,
shit. So it was good. It was
that's
cool.
awesome.
But but it's true. Like I actually would love to go back into the 90s
Yeah,
and see what it's like as an adult because as a kid, it was fantastic. Like I tell
yeah,
people, like, you missed a good time period,
oh
and there was
yeah,
so much going on. However, the flip side of that is it could ruin some things for you, right? Like I loved
yes,
Knight Rider as a kid, and I watched
oh
as an
yeah.
adult. I was like, oh my god, was I like a moron? Like this is horrible.
Oh
It's like,
yeah,
oh my god, I can't even watch. I can't believe I watched
I
5 minutes of this, let alone look forward
right.
to the next episode. Yeah.
It is crazy. I've definitely gone back and revisited some things, and I'm like, it's horrible some of this stuff. But yeah. So now a lot of times although to be fair, there is some stuff that I go back. I'm like, this is amazing. I still love this
Yes.
to this day, like Fresh Prince of Bel Air and stuff like
Yep.
that. And
Yep.
like even something as goofy as like Pee Wee's Playhouse. I loved that when I was a kid. And it's so insane. Like to watch that as an
Yeah.
adult, it's like this is weird. This is kind of
Right.
creepy,
You're
but
like, "I swear I wasn't on drugs as a kid. This was actually awesome." Now I think you
right.
need drugs to understand what was going on.
Some of those shows that Alf, remember Alf, the furry
Oh,
little
yeah.
alien?
Yeah.
Right?
The cat
Like
eater.
so
Yeah.
weird, some of them. Yeah, the cat
And
eater
then they
from
made a
Melmac.
cartoon out of it at one point.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It was really funny because it really makes me think, I went back and, I showed my eldest, the Gummy Bears cartoon from back in those days,
I don't
and
remember
I could
that.
not believe how violent it was. Like, even though it
Really?
was funny and it was kind of a Disney's Kid kind of thing,
Right.
like the one Duke kept punching his servant in the face or hitting him in the head, and I'm just like, "Oh, this is so horribly abusive." Like, you know?
It's a lot, yeah, a lot more got through back then. And now I
Oh.
feel like a lot of that stuff that we watched and experienced would not pass it would not pass the gatekeeper at this point.
Oh, 100% not. Yep. It's true. So, yeah, 90s, that's a
I
good time
love
period.
it.
I loved it. Yeah. Oh, so this one is always a popular question. Do you like the toilet paper flap over the roll or under the roll?
What do you think? I'm a psycho? Under the roll. You got to go under.
Hey,
Is
see?
that what you do or
Okay,
no?
yeah,
Or
this is
you
what
do
I
both?
do. And I do it under, and the sole
Okay.
purpose I tell people is because I grew up with cats, right? So
Oh,
if it's under and they bat it, it just rolls it up. But if it's
Right.
over, there would just be a pile of toilet paper that you then look at
Right.
like, I'm gonna have to use this because my dad is gonna be like, we're not wasting this. You
That's
roll that
true.
sucker back up, and it always looks like a pile of shit when you roll it back
Oh,
down.
yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
just like, and then it I don't know, you kind of like, oh, it's gonna feel different. You know?
Yeah.
It's
I
been
always, I don't know why. I always did under for some reason. I don't, and I am like very, and you're right. It is like one of those things that people are very committed to. They're very specific to, like, it's always under every
over under.
time. It's,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Now I've
under
heard
for
some
sure though.
really interesting things from our guests. Like some people are just like, "Oh, that's disgusting," because if it rolled backward, it's gonna touch the wall. I'm like, "What the fuck's wrong with your wall?" Like,
Right. Yeah. You live
right,
in a mud hut. Like,
right, exactly. It's like, wait, how is that disgusting? You know where it's going, right?
yeah, clean your wall.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? Apparently, I learned actually something on this show, which was super funny. It's one of our guests knew that the original. I don't know how he came across this. I really should find like, how did you find this out? The original patent for toilet paper shows the roll going over the top.
Does it really?
Yeah.
So we're
So
doing it wrong.
the original instructions were over the top, but apparently, if you go back into 12 pages of this patent or whatever, it has it under. So it's I don't know if they were like, and you can
Oh,
use it under, but the
yeah.
original was over the top. So then I was just like,
Wow.
I have been fighting this battle for a long time with potential partners, and all the women would look at
Yeah.
me like, you're retarded. It goes over the top, and I'm like, it goes under. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I have to admit that there is a good chance I was wrong, that maybe it really was supposed to go over the
Don't
top.
say that.
Yeah,
Don't ruin this for me, Anthony.
yeah, this is like a
Don't
left-handed,
change me.
right-handed thing, right? Like, you gotta unite on this
Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm
there's
team
so
under all
few
day,
of us.
man.
Yeah, team
Yeah.
under. Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
budging on
I'm
this.
gonna make a shirt out of that, team under.
Team under.
So,
I'll buy one.
yeah. Oh my god. Yep. Team under. Oh Jesus. Yeah. And it's so funny because people are like, is this really a question? I'm like, it's an important one. You
That's a
know?
good question.
Yeah. The
That's a
rest of
really
our
because
interview
that
might actually stand on whether you're an over or under person.
yeah. If I said over, you're like, all right, it's great talking
And
to
we're
you,
done,
Justin.
right?
Yeah.
Psychopath.
Yeah. Go to hell, loser.
Right?
Enjoy that over the top toilet paper.
Enjoy your overland,
Yeah. Yeah.
Marcus. um, what's the first movie that ever made you cry?
Ooh.
I'm a man. I
I'm
have
gonna
no
say
tear ducts. No.
yeah, yeah. I don't cry. Come on. I'm gonna say Stand By Me, probably.
Ooh, really?
Remember
Wow.
that where the kids went to find like the dead body, and I think maybe
Yeah.
that, or maybe E.T. Like I'm trying to think. Like I know a couple of those. I'm trying to think of the movies that made me emotional when I was a kid. I think Stand By Me for sure was. At least that one. I probably cried, but I know I loved that one when I was growing up. That was like my favorite movie as a kid was
Okay.
Stand By Me.
Yeah, yeah, I love
So
that movie. It's a great
probably that.
soundtrack on it as well.
Oh
It's so funny
yeah.
about E.T. I cried in E.T., but it's because it scared the living shit out of me, and I actually was traumatized for probably about 12 years. I had a reoccurring dream of thousands of
Really?
E.T. eating my skin. Yeah, it was
So
very
that's your scary dream. If I was
that
to
was my
turn the
scary
table and
dream.
ask you
Yeah,
1,000
yeah.
ET
Yeah,
eating your
so for
skin,
like 12 years, it was the exact same dream. It always ended the same way, with me falling
damn.
down the stairs. And then all of a sudden, I had a dream where I fell down the stairs and there was a shotgun. And I started blowing those little son of a bitches away, and then I never had the dream again.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was.
That's
I'm sure like a psychologist would have a lot to say about that. So,
well, hey, at least you came out victorious in the end, right?
right, exactly. It took
You
12 years of
beat them.
failing. Yeah,
You
yeah,
won though. You
that's
finally
right.
won the war.
Little Smurf-like versions of them. Oh, cool. Yeah,
Damn.
so I still to this day I see ET and I'm like, ugh. And I just like walk back to TV. Yeah, yeah,
Forget I said that then. The movie that made me cry was Stand By Me.
yeah.
Not E.T.
No, that's good. That was a very good uh I don't know. I felt like that was a fantastic childhood. Like it really encapsulated so many things that everybody could relate to. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was very personal
The
and
perfect 80s
great.
movie.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Speaking of ET, do you believe in aliens?
I do. Yeah, I think it would be kind of, I don't know. I almost think it would be arrogant to think that like we're here alone, or like that it's just us. Like it's a very American thing, like there's nobody else. Like it's
right.
just us. we're gonna get the aliens, we're gonna kill them. No, I think there is for sure. I don't know that I think that there are these cartoon looking like glowing green creatures necessarily.
Bum pro big saucers of riders.
Yeah, yeah, with these crazy eyes and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know that I believe that to look like that, but I have to think with how massive. I mean, because we're such a small speck, right? Like in this universe. Yeah, and so like you have to think that like there has to be other life forms out there.
Yeah, they may not look like us, but
no.
yeah, it could
and
be
Jeff Bezos will find them.
Caterpillar, right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
There has to be. So yes, I absolutely.
Yeah,
I absolutely believe in them.
You're right. I mean, it's almost obtuse to say like, we're the only species in the world?
Yeah.
Go down to my football room and have a beer. No.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. That's like totally that like way of thinking.
Yeah. Off my main
alien. Yeah.
How would you spend $100 million?
Oh, give me $100 million and I will show you.
I will let you know.
I will let you know. I would think, again, this is probably going to sound like a very cliche answer. I would try to help certainly people that are very close to me, family and very close friends and people that I care a lot about. I would definitely try to help them out. If it was my first thing that I would buy, which that would be part of the equation for sure, but I would probably buy a house. There's this lake locally that I love. And I always say, if I come into money, I'm going to buy a house right on the lake. So I would probably buy my lake house and probably just
$100 million. He just buys the lake and kicks everybody out.
yeah. I'm going to buy the entire lake. I just wanted the house, but with $100 million, I could probably buy the entire lake community. So right. I'm just going to make it mine. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that's so much money, right? Like, I feel like it's almost like, I always say that I feel like there should be a maximum wage. Like, I feel like after a certain point, nobody should have $25 billion or something, because what are you going to use that all on? Like, help other people, I feel like there's, and again, I know people
need to be. Right?
Exactly.
Like, I mean, what are you going to do with that? Like, I mean, do you just light things on fire with $100 bills now just because you can? Like, just because like money actually doesn't mean anything to you anymore? Because let me tell you, there are a lot of hungry people out there. And I have this. I don't know why I'm like this, and like I'm definitely not an overly jealous person about things, but when I see like a hockey player making $20 million or an athlete making $30 million a year playing a game. Now, I understand they're like, oh, but our joints can only last so long and our shoulder goes out, and you're like, I'm 45 and I got a shoulder issue. I still work a job. You can go out and still work a job.
Right.
Like let's say you made $7 million. You got $7 million. If you were smart with that, you actually don't even need to have a job, but you can still go work in a hardware store. You can go work at McDonald's and like, welcome to real life.
You're set for life. Yeah.
When you're making $30 million a year for like being on the ice for a couple hours, playing something you would be doing with your friends regardless.
Right. That you enjoy.
Trying to share that wealth around and help more people out.
Yes.
And I don't mean to come down on celebrities because God love the things that they do because there's so many that are great humanitarians and put money out. But when you look at the grand scheme of someone who say makes, let's say $10 million doing a single film and then turns around and says, oh yeah, this celebrity gave $5,000 to a charity. I'm like he probably wiped his ass with it first. That, right? It's like, come on, $5,000.
That's something like us going in like our change cup in our car and being like just putting it out the window in somebody's cup. That's what it is to them, pretty much.
Exactly right. So I'm like, I mean, I know like I understand the flip side of that coin where it's like, but if you gave to everybody, there just wouldn't be enough money in the world, right?
Right. Yeah.
And it's like I do get that, but at the same time, like, again, we're talking 10 million a movie, and that's pretty low for some of these actors. Right. So like if you turned around and gave $1 million to a children's charity or something, let me tell you, that will make more of an impact. And I will turn around and tip my hat to you and say, that is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and that's kind of what I would probably try to do. I think I would try to, obviously I would make sure that like the people that were close to me were taken care of. So they would,
Yeah.
I mean, $100 million, I'd make sure none of them ever have a need in their life again. And then I
Yeah.
think whatever with the rest of that, I would just, I would try to find not just one, but maybe 50 different or more different charities I could give $1 million to, or I could, like take care
You
of
know
this one, this one, this one.
So we had a guest on the show, and he had a brilliant idea. And I tell people about this all the time because I actually feel like this has to happen. What he wanted to do with the 100 million was create a hotel or a resort that is employed by nothing but homeless people, and they are trained by professionals so that they have a place to live. They now
Right.
have career options. They end up getting any psychological or physical or drug addiction help that they need because it would all be available to them. And
Yeah.
you would not only have, like, you could turn someone's life around, but then when they have their career and want to leave and it makes space for someone else, like you're doing nothing but giving more and more back.
Oh,
And I thought,
yeah.
this is amazing. Like this
That's a really
idea
good
has to
idea.
be done.
Yeah.
So $100
And
million,
it seems,
let me tell you, I would make sure that something would have to start and make that happen.
and that seems like such an attainable thing. I mean, I feel like you could do that for probably 2 million. Like you could probably create,
Yeah.
you could create a program like that. And
Yeah. And just imagine,
What?
like, in every city, if you had something like that, and
yeah,
and people from all around the world could come and learn something. And I don't know, I
Yeah.
think, and and all you're doing is you would still make a wage, but you'd have your living costs covered. And it,
right.
and then just imagine the stress that could take off of people that are really struggling because they're just like, I don't know where I'm going to sleep, let alone where I'm going to eat, let alone will I survive the night. Right.
Right. And then
So
I can't be, I look like this, so nobody's going to hire me.
yeah.
As far as like, like if they're homeless and stuff like that. So yeah, it really,
Right.
it gives them a reset button almost to try to,
100%.
get themselves back, into society, working, cleaned up, place to live. And then, like you said, they kind of graduate onto once they're on their feet again, and
They've got
they
a
got the
trade, they have a
experience.
resume, they have a
Yeah,
bank account and history, and like they're
right.
literally easy to integrate back in to
Yeah,
their life. So
that's awesome.
yeah,
That's a really
super
good
brilliant.
idea.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I like sharing this idea around because I really feel like this could reach the right people to make it happen someday. Like if it's
yeah,
something you think is super cool, you could be like, hey, I was talking to someone like, and that spreads
yeah,
and that word keeps going. And I think that inevitably it has to reach somebody, right? That
yeah.
they can turn around and say, you know what I'm going to do? Like, yes, it's happening.
If I get that 100 million, man, I will call you and we'll figure out a way to make that happen.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, we'll just touch
Yeah,
base everybody we know and see, like, okay, who can we get on board that would get the
right.
word out, right? So,
Yeah, that'd be
um,
cool, man.
yeah, yeah. Um, are you left-handed or right-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Oh, see, you're so lucky. I'm left-handed, and let me tell
Oh,
you, in the days of pencil and erasable pens, it has been a nightmare.
oh
Like,
my God,
you
yeah.
write everything down, you do your math, and all of a sudden you get back home to read your notes, and you're like, it's all smudged. Like, you can't
Oh,
read it. Yeah.
you know what?
No.
I have heard though, and it seems very true. A lot of very creative people are left-handed.
Yes.
It seems like more of the majority of like very creative people seem to be left-handed. So
Yeah.
I
It's
often wonder,
something to
like,
do with left-handed, right-brained, and then it's kind of like
yeah,
where it taps into different artistic versus mathematical senses and stuff, which was fantastic because I was borderline moronic when it came to math. So
same
yeah,
here, man.
no,
Same here.
I will admit that it really had to be in the teachings, right? Because to me, I could never
Yeah,
understand why I was so bad at math. And then I went off to
right.
college and I had a brilliant professor who turned around and said, he kind of looked, and as he's doing the math, I'm like, oh, Jesus, this is exactly why I'm horrible at math. And I'm watching it. And then he stops. He's like, there's got to be an easier way. And then he broke it down to something that was so simplistic that it was like,
Right.
it's like my brain went,
The light
and it's
bulb
like,
moment.
yeah, and then it was just like I almost was like, I'm gonna drive back to my high school, find my math professor, and punch him in the face for destroying my life. You
With a
know?
math book. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, just beat
I'm
him to
gonna
death with a
bludgeon him with a
math
math
book.
book.
It's like, I could have been an astronaut, like, yeah, yeah. So
Totally. No,
yeah,
I totally. I always think that's part of my my theory of not being an artist, because I'm like, every good artist is left-handed. I'm right-handed. I can't be an artist. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of creative people are left-handed. So
Keep breaking those walls. Yep.
keep breaking their walls. Yeah.
What gets on your nerves?
I think just like rude and nasty people. I think probably, like people that are just mean and like, that sounds like so like elementary. Like, people that are mean, but like I think just in general, people that are just kind of like shitty, like people that are rude, that are nasty, that are treat people bad. I think that stuff really,
There's so
like,
much
that
crap
always gets
going
me.
on in the world as it is. Like, do you really need to be a
Yeah,
prick? Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, I see stuff like that. Like even like not towards me, but even when I see people like doing it to other people, like being at like at a restaurant or see somebody yelling at a waitress or a waiter,
Right.
it's like, come on, man. Like that stuff really, like, not too much gets me like real twisted up, but that stuff gets me like so irritated when I see, just people like talking down to other people or mistreating people and stuff like that. Like I would say that's probably my biggest, pet peeve, or like something that like irritates me.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I really agree with that one. What was the last thing you did just for yourself?
Ooh, pretty much everything, because I live alone. Like, so I live like by myself. So like I like I'm always doing like my own thing. I'm always doing my own adventures, my own and that sounds very lonerish. Like that's I'm not, I promise I'm not like, but like as far as doing stuff for myself, I would say probably um man, I don't know. I don't really do much for myself either.
See, that's the thing, right? I mean, eating doesn't count. Like, oh, I
Right.
made myself a sandwich. No, you have to do that for yourself. When did you do
Yeah.
something just for yourself? When you were just like, you didn't have to think of timelines, you didn't have to think about bosses, you didn't have to think about parents and loved ones, and it was just like, I'm doing this for me.
Yeah, I would say probably, and this isn't like anything like major, but just kind of like I said, when I go on these rides and stuff, sometimes that's
Yeah,
kind of just my time. That's kind of just me, like my time. Like I don't want really to invite friends or anybody like that. I kind of want to just get in the car and like I said, just zone out. And so that's
yeah,
kind of like, it's nothing like a major like spoiling myself, but it's just something for me that's just for me.
yeah,
Let
yeah,
me go and put my music on, and sometimes I'll go to like that lake that I was telling you about. I'll go there and
yeah.
I'll either do a walk or a hike, or I'll sit just on a rock and draw or something like that. Just kind of, that's kind of my just way of unwinding and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's probably, I don't really do a ton for myself, I don't think so. That's probably like what I would say,
Yeah,
like
it sounds
the
like a good
generic
one.
answer.
Yeah, yeah, no, it works. It works.
Yeah,
Um, are you an iPhone or an Android person?
iPhone. And
Okay.
just because I got the first one when it came, and the reason why is because I was doing graphic design at the time, and I was so obsessed with like seeing the screen, like the full screen of like seeing my work. And it was like,
That's right.
now it's like, it's, who cares, it's so commonplace. But back then when that first iPhone came out, I was like, oh my god, look at this flyer I did for this event, look how cool it looks on the big screen.
Yeah.
So I just got the first iPhone, and ever since I think that's what I became used to. And I was just so accustomed to it that every time a new one comes out, and I think also just that I'm a slave to the Mac product because of like graphic design. Like
Yeah,
I
that's
have
true.
one at, yeah, I have one at work. I have two here at home, and then I have like the watch and like all that kind of stuff. So it's like I kind of just, I don't know.
But, so I got to tell you, like I remember having an early iPhone. I thought it was fantastic, other than the fact that you had to keep connecting it to a computer to sync. Half time you lost half your tracks. I got
Oh
so
yeah.
frustrated. I moved over to the Android side. I preached Android for ages because I was just like, I can't get bothered with the frustration of it. And then I got back into an iPhone, and I'm just like, oh my god, they have really come along. Like, it's fantastic. I get
Oh
the
yeah.
Apple Watch, and like how everything with Apple is so connected, and it just communicates perfectly. You don't have to worry about
Yes.
unsyncing. It just, they work hand in hand with everything. And I'm just like, this is a well put together product. Like, it's really, really
Yes.
well. If there's elderly people and they want a cell phone, put them on Apple. It's the most simplistic interface, but it's like
Yes.
rock solid. Yeah. So I bounce back and forth, but in the end,
Yeah.
Apple goes on my heart.
I think, yeah, like you said, I think everything does. It works so seamlessly together, and like I get like an alert. Like a lot of times, like I had no plans on getting the watch, but like I either run or I walk every night,
Mhm.
and and I would always take my phone with me. And I'm like, well, I could just put playlist on my watch, and that
Yes.
way I don't have to lug my phone with me. I could just kind of put the
Yep.
earbuds in. And so yeah, like it all just syncs. And maybe I'm a sucker for the product because I have the
No,
earbuds and the watch and the
it's
phone.
true. It works well, and that's the thing. It just
Yeah,
works,
it
and it's
does.
true. Like if I wanted to ditch my phone, and I don't do it with my watch, but I mean I could put the plan on my watch and just use my watch as a phone. Like suddenly Dick
Right.
Tracy days actually came true for me,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So you're like, holy shit, I'm living in Star Trek,
Right.
But it just like I said, it worked, and
Yeah.
that's why I like it. And I kind of look back, and oh my god, when I saw the Apple Watch came out and the price tag on, I'm like, you've got to be mental to pay for
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
much for a watch. And now I have one, and I'm like, this thing is amazing. Like, it's changed my
It's
life.
incredible. Exactly. I'm the same way with all the stuff I was like, I'll never pay like whatever, like 250 for earbuds.
Yeah,
But then I got the watch. I'm like, well, I have to get the earbuds to sync with the watch. And now I got them and I love them. I use them
yeah,
every day. Like every day I use the watch every day. So it's like it seems expensive, but you're using it every day. And it's like it's worth it. I mean, it's just
yeah.
something that, like
Right. I
I
don't
always
even use my car every day, but I
right.
use the Apple products, like you said, every moment of the day.
Every
It's there,
single day.
the
Isn't it
watch is
crazy?
reminding me like, hey, yo, you might be panicking a little. Your heart rate's getting a little high.
Right.
know?
Isn't
Yeah,
it wild to think of when we were kids, like watching Dick Tracy, like the cartoon or like the movie, and thinking like, "Oh my god, could you imagine a watch that talked?"
right?
And
Yeah.
now we have like it's just so crazy to think that
No.
like,
It
it seems so like such a foreign concept because it would never happen. And now like we're, like call Anthony, and it's like
right?
it's gonna give you a call.
Bam. Yeah.
Yeah,
Here
yeah,
here we had like a, when you think about that first computer and it basically took the size of a desk, and now you've
yeah.
got it like in your palm of your hand. Oh wait, even better, I've got it on my wrist,
Right. It's
Yeah.
insane.
To be a complete nerd, but man, when Calculator watch came out, that blew my mind.
Oh yeah, I remember that too. Yeah.
Oh, that's how old I am. Calculator watch,
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
right? Um, what do you do when you can't fall asleep?
I got these Pure Z's. It's like it's all natural. I think it's like a night cool thing, but it's like all natural, like melatonin, lavender or something. They're game changers because I used to
Okay.
I just got them like a month ago, or maybe 2 months ago. Before that, I would just like stare and I would try to count sheep, and that never worked, and and I would just toss and turn. Inevitably, like I feel like the phone's glued to us all the time. So it's like, all right,
Yeah.
well, I can't sit and go on the phone. Then, 2 hours later, I'm looking up shit that has nothing to do with anything, and then I'm still awake.
Feel like
And
there's something wrong with me. I shouldn't be looking at this.
yeah.
Yeah.
The irony was I was listening to I had one night listening to sleep like some podcast on, and there's an ad of this Pure Z's or whatever. I'm like, I sort of wrote down, and I went to the next day, and it worked. And before you take a half hour to bed, you take pills, and they're all natural. It's not like any kind of like pharmaceutical bullshit. You just take 2 pills, and then within a half hour, I start getting like, I start getting real groggy
I
and stuff like
I like
that.
how
So.
early you compared that to NyQuil. I mean, that's probably the most unnatural product in the world. But
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it's so funny because I think it's who makes NyQuil. I
oh, okay.
think. I think
Yeah.
it's like it's Vicks. I think maybe Vicks. I don't. Pure
Yeah.
Z's it's called or whatever. But it is. I made sure I looked on the
As
package.
well.
It says, and that was one of the ad things on the ad I was listening to. It was like this all natural product, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, huh. And so I'm like, it's worth a
Natural.
try because I find myself a lot of nights tossing and turning,
Yeah.
and it works. So that's my most recent. That's very recent. I've been doing that.
Look at the brick next to your bed. Not tonight, my bricky friend.
Yeah, yeah. I got to fight to losing my dream. I got to get to bed.
Right. Oh my god. All right, we got a few left here. And what makes you totally lose track of time?
Art. I feel like
That's fair.
art. Like I get on
What year
the
is
computer.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, it really like I'll get on. Like I said, like 3 hours go by, and it seems like I've been doing it for 10 minutes. And I look up at the clock, and it's like 1:30 in the morning, and I'm like, oh my god, like, I got
As long as
nothing
you're not
done.
billing for 10 minutes, you're okay.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's
Right. Oh my
but
god.
yeah, that kind of that's the thing I think more than anything. It probably because that's the thing I do the most. But I think yeah, that I lose such track of time doing that. So
Yeah.
That's
No,
my final answer.
you're
For
in the
sure.
right
Art.
career. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the best thing you've ever eaten?
Oh man, I got a couple. I think I love cookie dough.
Mm,
Um,
so
I
bomb.
love chicken parmesan.
Mhm.
Um, and there's this stuff called like fried dough, or it's like pizza frita, they call them around here. It's just kind of like it's almost like pizza dough that they like. It's real soft though, and it's real warm, like right out of the oven, and they just sprinkle sugar all over it. It's kind of almost like a donut,
I was gonna
but
say we
it's
call that
better.
donut up here. No, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah, right.
actually it's a
It's
beaver
kind of
tail up here. Yeah.
a beaver tail. Really,
Yeah,
I never heard that
we have what's
before.
called the beaver tail, and it looks like a big old flat fried piece of pizza dough with sugar and yeah, it
That's
looks
probably what it is.
yeah,
That's probably what it is. That probably yeah, probably just a different name. Yeah, I love those things though.
right. Well,
You
you
have
can't
Tim
say
Hortons,
beaver
isn't
tail, then
that
you're
the
Canadian, right? So
yeah?
yeah, yeah.
Is that Tim Hortons? Isn't that the big? Or am I just being like very like
No,
stereotypical of like, hey, Canadians, Tim Hortons? Like that's
so
like a big thing there, isn't it?
yeah, you know what it was. Um, so it's gone through a little bit of trials and tribulations. I actually don't think Tim Hortons is Canadian owned anymore. I think it's American
Oh,
owned now.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
just like a few things out there.
yeah.
And yeah, there's, you know what, it's still okay, but the original Tim Hortons coffee that everybody loved and fell in love with is actually
Right.
brewed by McDonald's now. So
Is it
if
really?
you really like Tim Hortons coffee and you're like, I'm not going to McDonald's, that's bullshit and watery cup. If you actually go, you're like, oh my God, this is Tim Hortons coffee. You're like, yeah, because they bought their coffee
Wow.
when they changed. And my God, let me tell you, McDonald's coffee up here is so much better than Tim Hortons now.
Is
So
it really?
I almost feel unpatriotic
Wow.
saying that, but it is what it is. I mean, if you like coffee, it's yeah, Tim Hortons, you made a bad decision. I don't know what to tell you. So,
Wow. I always hear Tim Hortons. I'm a big hockey fan. And so
yeah,
I mean, Tim Hortons is very big in the hockey culture. So I always just, like, I just assume I don't really research much, but I know like I always just think like, oh, Tim Hortons is huge in Canada because I know they sponsor a lot of like hockey night in
yeah.
Canada and you
Well,
see
they're
it on the
still
boards.
everywhere. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
unfortunately that what the good cup of coffee has changed.
Yeah.
It's not the same anymore, so it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So coffee lovers out there might agree with me. Canadians one are probably going to beat me with a hockey stick when I walk out of the studio. So. All right, 2 questions left. Well,
Yep.
we haven't done this one in a while, actually. Have you ever had a crush on a TV or movie character? And if so, who?
Oh man. I I actually really don't. I'm trying to think. There had to be at some point. I'm trying to think who though.
And you lived through
Um,
the 80s. Yeah, there must have been someone.
there had to be like yeah, like probably I'm thinking like Saved by the Bell with like like what's that girl's name?
Kelly.
Tiffany.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, Kelly Kapowski.
yeah, Kelly
Yeah,
Kapowski.
maybe
Yeah.
her. Like, but I don't know if I ever had a crush on her. I thought she was cute. Man, I don't know. This is a really good question because it's so funny. I always tell people I'm like I really don't have. I never had like a ton of like celebrity crushes. Obviously, I think like
Mm,
a lot of these celebrity females are gorgeous. They're
yeah.
super pretty, but like I don't know that I ever had like one where I was like, oh my god, like did you see her?
I'm gonna marry her when I get older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you? Did you have one or no?
Um, I used to really love Meg Ryan.
Okay.
I found her funny and I don't know. I thought she was super pretty and funny.
Yeah.
I actually super laughed because my co-host Matty G, he, he had let it loose that his crush was Miss Frizzle from the Magic School Bus, and I can't let him live it down to this day. I was just like, oh my God,
Oh,
what's wrong with you?
oh man.
I think there's a whole bunch of underlying things that he might want to talk to someone about.
Yeah, you might want to
Like,
get him in a chair in a couch in a room with a person to talk to,
right?
maybe.
You're weird, older, redheaded school bus teacher person.
Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are so many things going on there that I just don't feel like I'm almost afraid to ask where that came from.
Right.
So, but
Who's
he
his
is
current
adamant.
one?
Yeah, right. Well, hopefully his wife.
Really? Yeah.
So, yep. Oh my God. And the last question I have for you, of course, is what's your most favorite podcast you've been on in the last 20 hours?
Come on. This one. This is
Yeah.
my most favorite one I've been on ever, we'll say.
I normally say like in the last 12 hours. I had to expand it because there's a couple times where, especially when we have a host from another show, they're like, oh man, I don't know how to tell you this. And I'm like, I know what you're expecting.
Oh no.
Yeah,
No, man, this is fun, man. This is a great time. This is really, yeah.
excellent.
I'm always so behind the scenes of a lot of stuff. So I'm always like, I don't know if I do good at these podcast things. I don't know how. Like when Stacy told me, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna have you be on my buddy Anthony's podcast, and I was like, oh man, I hope I don't screw it up. I hope I don't sound like an idiot in it because I said I'm like, I feel like I'm so much away from the microphone and away from the camera all the time. I'm just kind of like behind the scenes. So I hope I wasn't too
Oh, no.
green or too bad here.
No, it's awesome. I had an awesome time with you, and it's been super fun.
Thanks, man.
Now, before, of course, you go, do you have any social media, anything, a website or anything you'd love to pitch so people can maybe learn a little bit more about your work?
Yeah, so I have probably the best thing. I have Instagram and my handle is like super easy. It's just IMJUST, it's just I'm just. And on there's like links to I have like a Flickr page. I was gonna get a website, but I feel like now everything is just you could throw up on social media for like art samples.
Yep.
And being that I don't really advertise as like a business too much. I kind of just I have like a lot of set clients that I just kind of have continued to work with. So probably Instagram is the best. And like on Facebook, it's just my name, Justin Roach. But yeah, probably Instagram's the best way. And then that way there's links to Flickr and all that other stuff if you want to see. I do have most of my social media is just my art. I don't really post a ton of personal stuff. Most of it's just kind of like a marketing tool for like just to put out like what I'm working on at that time. So so that's kind of good.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
So that's cool. All right. Okay. One more thing before you go, and I'm going to ask you: are you a Star Wars fan? Since you went through the 80s and 90s.
I am not, but here I am a Spaceballs fan.
Oh, so, that's pretty close. That's like
right.
That's like that's like Star Wars is cousin, right? In the comedic value. So but the reason I ask you is because for some of our listeners and viewers out there, our sponsors, CR Sabers and Blue Bulls Outer Rim Saber Parts Shop, we are actually giving away some lightsabers over the Christmas holidays. And it is going to start with, as of next week, we are going to give out this particular one, which is the Sith Master Saber. Hopefully it doesn't deafen thing. I'm going to tell you people right now, I'm going to fire this thing up.
Like that bitch up,
with my green screen because it always does, but it's really impressive.
Oh, damn. It's like sound effects and everything, huh?
It's got everything in there. It's got like your motion hum.
Wow.
It's got like a blaster deflect. And then you can lock up. I'm going to cover the speaker a little because it gets loud, but you can lock up with other sabers.
Oh, damn.
So it's the other best thing about it is you can change it to whatever color you want. So it's not like the days where you got to buy a blue one and then buy a green.
Right.
You get every color under the sun in this one.
Damn.
Which is super cool. Beautiful saber. This one, of course, was donated by CR Sabers, and we are looking forward to giving this away. So
that's awesome.
Fire this down here.
Yeah.
Beautiful fact. These are also fully battle ready. So if you want to get out there and channel your inner Jedi or Sith, you can fight against other people. These things will take punishment. You can go to town and just relive those movie moments.
That's cool as hell. I've never seen anything that detail. I've seen like those cheap plastic things you see at the Walmart or something like that. Yep. Yeah,
and they're all metal hilts. So
wow.
No plastic. That's all metal. It's super solid, beautiful LEDs. And it comes with like Allen key bolts, charging cable because it's all rechargeable, which is also super fun. So
That's
we are
fresh,
giving
man.
this away. So for our listeners now, and even afterwards, if you are interested in getting in on this, all we want you to do is jump onto our Facebook page or our Instagram page, preferably our Facebook at this point, and tag a friend and like and share. That's all we ask. You get that in, we put your name into the draw, and so right up until next week's show, and next week we will be putting that on the big old wheel, and we'll see who will be getting this one. So hopefully a nice wonderful little Christmas gift. Hey, you want in on that, you know what you have to do. Just like our
I might
Facebook
enter,
page.
brother.
Yeah,
I might try to get into Star Wars after seeing that display.
It is super fun. And worst case scenario, cool, this is the other thing I love about this, and this saber is fantastic, because if you want to go for a walk, you got yourself a nice high-powered flashlight. You can change the sound. You can turn off the sound. So if I want to go no sound now and fire it up,
wow,
you can change that, and you can walk with a nice high-powered flashlight. It is fantastic. So you take it everywhere.
I walk every night.
Yeah, so
I live right across the street from a park, and it's dark all the time. So literally every night I have a flashlight, a little flashlight I carry with me. So man, I might enter the drawing.
You could have something like that. Hey, if some type of stray animal walked up, you hit it in the head or something, or muggers, it's got super solid weight to it. It's a beautiful flashlight. You can change it to whatever color, so you don't want to worry about your night vision. Turn it to red. If it's a foggy night, turn it blue. And
cool.
So super versatile.
I'll carry that other piece with me too, that white piece, in case anybody wants to have a duel with me, in case somebody does jump out.
Like, hold on, let's make this happen. For the other person who's walking through the park with their lightsaber, you're like, hey, let's make this happen.
Shit's about to get real.
Exactly. So perfect. Jump over to our Facebook page, like it. I'll put up a picture of this particular saber, so people know where to put their likes and tag their friends. And you do all that, and we'll get you into the draw. So super looking forward to giving this away. It's wonderful. I super recommend it. Again, CR Sabers, if you want to check it out, and Blue Bull's Outer Rim Saber parts. One's Canadian, one's American. They sell the same style of sabers. Jump on, check them out, see some of the amazing replicas. You can get the things right from the movies. Super beautiful.
Nice.
So, and they make a wonderful art piece. You can hang them on the wall, light them up, and I don't know if this would be like hey baby, want to come over and check out this? Like, the people are not necessarily going to see it unless they're super Star Wars fans. So
right. That's cool looking, man. Regardless.
Excellent. Other than that, Justin, I got to tell you, it's been super fun. I'd love to circle back around with you, have you back on the show, and have some more fun. And I've had a wonderful time chatting. It's been a good
night. Same here, man. I really appreciate it. Again, my condolences to you, man. I just appreciate you doing this especially under the circumstances. So
it's okay. Not often do I get to wear a tie and a shirt. Like, clearly I'm coming right from the funeral.
Yeah, that's dedication, man.
But right, I mean, this is fancy. I normally look like a complete schlub when I'm on the show nowadays. So COVID made me lazy. But you know what? Again, I got to see some family that I haven't seen in quite some time. We got to send off a beautiful man who has meant a lot to not only his family but the community. And it's never a good time. They leave a hole in the heart. But the time comes for everybody. You just hope you lived your life to the fullest. And he had a wonderful life surrounded by family, and lived a really good one. So
90 good long years, man.
Yep, 90 years is a good good time. I can only hope that I live that long.
Same here. I agree, man.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you very much for being on the show. And like I said, I'd love to have you back. We had a good time. And
absolutely, we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, 100%. Excellent. All right, and tell our listeners, if, of course, you want to learn a little bit more about Justin, we'll make sure we put him up under our guest profile page. So just go to thefap.ca, jump over to guests. We'll have a beautiful picture of Justin there and a link to his social media and some of his artwork. So excellent. Have a great night.
Thanks again, brother.
Everyone. And then again, thank you for kind of, stretching the evening out a little longer than I would normally ask someone to do.
Sorry I kept you so long, man. My mouth just keeps going. So
no, it's good. It's good. Like I said, that's a sign of a good time. So
yeah, absolutely, man. I had a blast.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Again, Anthony. You as well, man. Take care.
Thanks. Take care.